Hello.
Hey, Amy, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thanks. How you doing?
Good. Turns out this meeting auto records, so you might want to cut off a minute of me just doing nothing.
Don't worry, they often start with long minutes of it's usually me sitting on my own for a few minutes. These are the highlights, I always think. And
Yeah.
sometimes go right to the end of videos, you get great Easter eggs. Hey.
I just came out of a meeting with Skarbek, so I'm sure that he's around, by the way.
Yeah, it's just gonna give him a nudge.
I think I pinged him like 10 times on Slack before he woke up, so he's probably like going
You
through all these
probably
threads.
like overloaded his Slack and now he can't see any other alerts amongst it. Yeah, I was like, we could all chat amongst ourselves, but it feels like the key people are not right here, right? This used to be one of the benefits when you're in an office, was you like hold on to people and drag them from one meeting to the next. There was no escape, right? They couldn't get away from you.
Yeah, although I found that meetings tended to start late because of that, because you could just be like, oh, someone will bring me in. But then I guess that's what's happening here anyway. So, yeah.
It's the same problem.
Did anyone find any solution for this Sentinel-1 thing that is now like, I can't work today at all?
I'm just not running any processes that do anything. That's my solution.
I'm convinced that yesterday the freaky thing, did they do some part of it yesterday that just didn't have a user interface? Because my computer was doing stuff yesterday that I've never seen a computer do in my life, which is that hash bang scripts did not work. So gcloud didn't work. Kube control calls gcloud, so it was just hanging. Like, yeah, it's bizarre at the moment.
What is this? What is this thing doing exactly? Like, I really haven't been following it. Antivirus. That's it. It's not like doing all sorts of other.
I don't know. I think it's actually mining Bitcoin as well. But that's just
Well, I looked at the metrics it generates, and it seems really not happy with lots of processes or processes that read a lot of files and generating
the Unix way, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And generating the stuff in the runbooks uses a lot of processes and touches a lot of temporary files. Starting the Rails app takes a lot of files because we've got a lot of dependencies to load. So fun.
Did you all see the issue? There's an issue open discussing this. Did you all see that?
Yeah, Sean did a really good write-up on it.
Awesome. So let's get started with the demo. So Kubernetes demo, 13th of May. And Skarbek, have you got something to demo?
I just woke up, so no, I don't. I just sat down at my desk, so I really no, I don't.
I was thinking we could demo the failure on. We have a deploy failure in one of the clusters in production, and we could just kind of walk through the troubleshooting of that, but maybe save that till the end.
Yeah, let's do that. Also, I mean, it'd be great to have a look at some dashboards and just see how things are looking. But yeah, let's start with the deploy failure.
Or maybe Jarv has a point in the discussion. Start with that and then go.
Yeah, Yeah, this is more of an announcement, just to let you know that I unmounted NFS from 3 of the catch-all nodes, and we'll just monitor those 3 to make sure they all look okay before we unmount the rest of the fleet. Tomorrow, I've started the change issue for the rest of the fleet, and I'm going to try to execute it early in the day so that we have like a full day before the weekend to kind of make sure things are fine. But I feel like this is a fairly low risk thing. We do have the temp file creation issue, but after discussing this a bit further, like we don't think that's going to be a problem. That's that. The most important thing to remember is that the thing that has bitten us in the past is this high availability list of mounts that you pass to Omnibus that will not, it basically won't allow services to start if these mounts aren't mounted. And we have to remember to remove that from the list before we do the unmount. Otherwise, GitLab CTL will just, or actually the service itself won't be able to start. And Scarbeck has a question. Should we turn down?
Yeah, we were using the catch NFS fleet as a way to like move queues over to it. We would unmount NFS from that. That way we don't interrupt catch-all. But it sounds like because we're doing that for catch-all, maybe the catch NFS nodes, which we were using previously for evaluation, they're no longer being used at all at this point. So I wonder if we should just turn them down and get rid of them.
Yeah, I think we should.
That would help us as well. Because it's one less thing we need to think about when we're doing our Sidekick migration that we're going to start hopefully tomorrow. But yeah, that would help us. So please do if you can.
Okay, we don't have an issue to do that, so I could create an issue and
yeah, could you ping
really
me
quick.
and Craig Miskell on there, please, just so we know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Does it mean that basically from this moment onward, or rather, as soon as Jarv you get to the 0.7 to the 7 server, we can't count on NFS, so the application actually has to be robust enough to handle writing between different servers?
Yeah, I think like after this is done, we can definitely just finish the Sidekick migration. It's going to be as simple as just moving what's remaining. The web pages fleet still has this pages mount, but it shouldn't be using it. So we need to just unmount NFS from the web pages fleet as well. And then we can shut down our last NFS server and no more NFS.
Just copied in there, Jav, the blocker issue you opened up the other day about these unexpected writes. So that's being worked on now. So let's just be aware of that.
Yeah, I mean, this is, I'm not sure if this is going to be fixed or not. It's like deep into carrier wave.
On though. Do you mean
it is being worked on?
Fixable? Right.
I'm not sure if there is a desire to fix this. And like, in other words, like we may just live with temp file creation, which means when we move this service to Kubernetes, we'll just do what we do now for temp files, which is we'll create an empty dir for the SRV shared directory, which will allow us to cap the amount of space that can be used, and we'll let the temp files be created. I mean, I think the main concern, the reason why I made this a blocker before was because we can't unmount NFS while these temp files are being written to, and I was concerned about like disk space on the VMs. The first concern is like taken care of because I'm going to shut down, or I'm shutting down Sidekick before I do the unmount, one node at a time. So that's not an issue. And the second concern, I'm convinced that it's not a problem. So we can probably, let's give it like another day, but I think we can probably remove the migration blocker label from this issue.
Okay, sounds good.
It's certainly not the worst problem with carrier wave.
Yeah, it isn't, and it's something we deal with in other places as well. Like we already deal with these temp files. We already use an empty dir for scratch space for Kubernetes. So I think it's not that big of a deal.
Are these things that you just mentioned there, Jarv, are they issues anywhere? Like I see you've got the first what the production issue, but are these also issues somewhere inside the Kubernetes epic as well? Like all of this moving over?
No, I think like Scarbeck, do you know whether we have an issue for like removing the remaining Sidekick workers?
I'd have to go look at what we've got in our epic. I know we've got a remaining epic that contains an issue for like the further evaluation, but it's been a while since I've looked at it.
Okay, so Amy, it sounds like we need to go through that and update it. It sounds like the evaluation is done. We're just, I mean, once we remove the NFS mount, there's nothing more to evaluate. And the only remaining issue is to just move the remaining workers to Kubernetes, and we're done. And then Scarbeck, I assume after that we can like reduce this, like this huge config we have in values for selecting individual queues. It will just be like catch-all, and that's all, right?
Sean already did that.
Yeah, there's just a tag that says exclude from Kubernetes now, so we just don't use
sweet.
that tag, and then we delete the tag from the code base, and then we're done.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I linked other item D, the epic for the remaining queues.
Nice, thanks. Jarv, would you mind going through that and just sort of matching up what is covered by your work and leave some comments on?
Yeah, I'll do.
That's great, thanks. Excellent, nice. Anything else we want to talk about on that one, on mounting NFS?
One other thing, we might need to do some public service announcements. As soon as the NFS is completely fully removed, we need to check out the documentation. I know that we have something somewhere, I think in development documentation, where we are saying, write services, Kubernetes first in mind, or this is what you need to care for. So someone needs to go and find that. And then we need to go and remind people nodes or other service separation is real, and you can't expect that things are sharing file systems anymore, because Omnibus still allows us to do that. So people will do that.
Yeah, I just actually the other day I was looking at something and I noticed we still had some documentation, development documentation that specifically suggested using shared, i.e. NFS mount. So I've got an MR there, which is with Alessio to not do that anymore, basically.
Awesome, Sean. That is awesome.
That is great. Perfect timing as well. Nice. Great. Anything extra on NFS before we move on? So Andrew, over to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of a little bit, like not totally, but a little bit blocked on these labels again. My main question that I kind of wanted explained was, we have two of the labels. We have a type label and a tier label on our ingresses. So we know that it's the API type and it's a service tier, which is kind of everything service tier. So it's not that useful. But what I really need is a stage label, because that's part of what we use to kind of define all of our metrics. And without it, it just kind of goes to dev null. And it seems to be like more complicated to add that label than it does the two that we already have. And I don't understand. And I'm not asking this in a facetious way. I'm asking it in a genuine way. Why is this more difficult? We've already, because if you go look at like, I don't know, maybe I should share my screen. If we go look at like cube ingress labels, we have on here, kube state metrics has given us a bunch of labels, and in there we've got API and service. So we're like almost there, but we just need one extra label that's really important to me. And then I will be able to do so many more things. So if we can put those two on, can't we put the third?
Is your question here, Andrew, is like, why does this keep happening? Like, why do we keep on not having the right labels as we bring on new services? Because this shouldn't be hard to do.
So the question, so when I raised it, there was a whole question about basically the Nginx fork, and do we want to kind of merge off? But I mean, I noticed that the Nginx base chart, you can give it labels, right? So we could give it any arbitrary set of labels. So I don't understand why this is taking us, causing us to diverge far further away from the Nginx chart than we otherwise would be. And also, I don't know if we're ever going to bring that back in, because it sounds as though we're quite far away as it is. But that's a different discussion.
So Andrew, late yesterday, I merged in an MR that should have added the stage and service label to the ingress. So I'm kind of surprised you're not seeing it today.
No.
I know that label is going to be missing on the HPA because I haven't touched our chart configuration yet, but it should at least be on the deployment, and it should be on all of the pods at this point.
What about on the ingress?
The
ingress is the one that I need it on. Yeah.
If it's not on there, we need to investigate why it's not on there. But they should be based on the work that I merged in yesterday.
And did you say we've got on the HPA, we've got well, actually, the easiest way to check on the HPA is if I go to...
I know it's not going to be on the HPA because the label configuration that the chart allows today does not apply additional labels to the HPA object. That's the part that I still need to address. And I think for that particular one, instead of bringing in that person's pull request that's on the upstream, I'm just going to create a merge request that targets the HPA only, because that's the only thing that I know that we're missing.
Yeah.
And that should get you unblocked relatively quickly. And that'll be a small change inside of our Helm chart.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, because obviously, well, this one we've got cube, pool, max nodes. So some of these are, but some, desired replicas, component saturation. This is missing because of that as well. So that's kind of the thing that I was looking at. Okay, I didn't realize that. I thought that there was some discussion around like whether this would push us further away from the upstream fork or upstream of the fork. And that's why I was kind of asking the question.
Now, I took advantage of what our fork allowed today, and I added the necessary labels. So now we just need to figure out why they're not showing up like I would expect them to when you're doing the metric searches. So that's kind of infuriating.
Awesome.
Maybe do that now?
Yeah, let's do it.
For it.
And I'm aware that my Zoom froze, so if you didn't hear everything, tell me.
No, we heard you say do that now. If you'd said anything else, we didn't hear it.
I did say maybe do that now.
Oh yeah, we heard the maybe as well. You didn't have like some sort of piece that we just all missed.
Okay, sorry, I joined late. Have you discussed the deployment failure with Kubernetes?
No, not yet.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so just as I'm just pulling things up. So just as a quick review as to what I merged in. So for Canary and for the global setting, like Canary has different because we've got the Canary stage, but everything is going to be main. And then I'm taking those labels and we're applying them to both the pod labels as well as the service itself. So from what I recall, that is supposed to do what we wanted. If we go down to say Canary as our pipeline, for example, we should see that we did indeed add labels. Our diff doesn't show the entire object, but we should see, okay, so template metadata labels. So we should be seeing shard and stage. And this is on the ingress controller deployment. So we should be seeing it somewhere. So let's hop on to that cluster and see what's up.
Cube, and I'm just going to double check. Stage.
And I'll share my shell. That way we could see everything.
Okay, we've got it on Plant UML.
So I do see the labels applied to the deployment object, which is what we want, right?
No,
the sharp being
ingress
default.
Ingress object.
Yeah,
No.
they're missing. Okay, so
Yeah.
they got added to the deployment object, but not the ingress object. So then I guess the problem here then is going to be let's see, that object comes from, is that going to be the ingress for our web service?
I mean, so yeah, I mean the web service API would be the most useful. Yeah, most useful one. But all ingresses would ideally have them, you know, just consistently.
I know we're setting the common labels, so
Can you also explain to me what that dict deployment common labels web so that last labels line is?
line 27.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all.
We have the ability to deploy labels we have the ability to deploy the web service in two fashions. One is where we define an individual deployment where we have like the API and the Git fleet like we do today. And there's also, we don't separate that out at all. So there's just a web service deployment called default, I think. And there's two ways that we need to like merge in all these labels. So if we have a deployment if we have multiple web service deployments, we're going to feed this object here into a web service value. If we're not doing that, everything's going to be in the default deployment thing that's going to go into the deployment object. And if I go to our helper, where's web service helper, I believe, and we're going to have common labels. So here we're just merging those two objects together. That way we get rid of any repetitive labels.
Okay.
And then we just spit out the labels and the key value. That's all that does.
So the next question I had is, if you go back to that last file, would it make sense to just include like canary on the standard labels, because everything's got standard labels?
I thought we did.
Okay.
Obviously that must not be the case though. So
yeah.
So common labels. So we set type get. We got to do this elsewhere. So there's for sidekick. So maybe we just, I thought we've added this in the past. Yeah, so here, no, that's shell. I hate looking at this file because it's so large. Yeah, all I'm seeing is that we've added the common label of type set to whatever we need it to. So maybe I just missed something and didn't realize it. But theoretically, hopefully I could fix that just by adding stage main. And what was the other one? Shard default?
Default,
theoretically, that would fix the problem.
Yeah, I think your indentation on shard is different from the others.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But hopefully that would fix it. So I'll try to work on that later today.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Okay, I was under the impression that there was like technical difficulties, but it doesn't sound like there is, so that's cool.
That sounds like it's a
Thanks,
easy difficulty.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Anything else, Andrew?
No.
All right, Jar, if you want to, you've seen more of the failure than I have. You want to start that conversation?
Sure.
So what happened, or for what I saw so far, was that we started the upgrade and then we hit the CI job timeout. And the problem there was that the Helm timeout was set to an hour and the CI job timeout was set to an hour. So I believe what happened was there was a failure of some sort, and then Helm did a rollback, but that hit the CI job timeout. So we don't really know. I mean, we didn't see anything from the CI output. What happened after that? I increased the timeout, CI job timeout to 2 hours, and then we retried it, and then we saw another failure, and that's the log of the failed job log that I included.
It's another failure on another cluster, because the cluster that failed the first time completed the second.
Oh, I thought they were both D. So the first cluster was what zone?
I think it was B.
It was B. Okay, so
let me double check, because I think I wrote it in the on Slack. So
okay, I misunderstood. So that's sort of where I am as far as troubleshooting it. So it sounds like after getting past.
Yeah, first time was B. US
so
East 1B.
Yeah, let's see where we are. And I forgot these aren't done simultaneously anymore. We do them one at a time. So we're on the last zone, and so C was successful on the first time, right?
Oh, I don't know. It's A, B, C, D. I don't know. Are we doing?
Yeah, it looks like it looks like it was. So B required a retry. C was successful in the first time, and then D failed the first time, and that's kind of where we are now. And we need to know, like, okay, we're just going to retry this, or can we?
I hate to retry. I'll tell you, I hate to retry.
You did already, but is it?
I don't. It's running. It's on 2 minutes. 2 minutes in now on US East 1D.
Yeah. Well, you guys kick back and relax, because it's going to be a while. I mean, like, this is really bad. Now that we're doing them in sequence instead of in parallel, this is taking an eternity to get through, right?
Should we consider putting them back into simultaneous?
Parallel.
So we took them out when we ran out of IPs, right?
That was one of the reasons why, or the main reason why.
And we're good on that now.
Yeah,
I think so.
So should we put that back?
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of had this idea that, man, it'd be really cool if we did a wave, where with multiple waves and then we had checks in between. But if it takes an hour, which it really shouldn't, but if it takes an hour, then that's not going to work.
If each one takes an hour, it's 4 hours.
We have 4. Do 2 at a time, and you already improved things. So
yeah. We need to figure out why it's taking so long. I mean, this is ridiculous. An hour is not good.
It almost sounds as if we got Sentinel-1 on those machines.
Yeah.
I already made this joke this morning.
Andrew, you're way behind. Like, this joke has already been made. Oh man.
Can someone link the new job? Can someone link the new job that was restarted, because I can't seem to find it?
Yeah, I can see it either. So first of all, on the previous failures, Skarbek, have you seen this before? This
the connection timeout?
Can someone share the screen? Because again, I'm unable to see. Thanks.
So I was looking at this. Have you seen this before, Skarbek?
I have not seen that before, but that looks like it was a failure talking to the master API, the primary API of Kubernetes itself, which is a little strange.
Yeah.
And we don't have control over those particular API nodes, so we don't know if they're healthy or not. That's up to GKE to tell us what's going on with them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I feel like we're kind of getting into the habit of just retrying these failures and accepting them as like normal.
So right now, we're taking a minimal amount of traffic on API, like it's roughly 3% going into the GKE clusters. When we merged the enablement of deploying this, we made sure we set the minimum to what we estimated would be the minimum amount of pods that we would need if we were taking 100% of the traffic. Since at this moment in time, the change request is still in kind of a pause state, maybe we should try to like pause it until we try to figure out what's going on with the deployments. That way we're not blocking auto deploys. So maybe we could tune down the HPA for a short period of time while we investigate what's going on with our deployments.
Yeah, I mean, did we notice that it's like taking significantly longer after enabling the API service?
This would be our first, Alessia, this is probably our first deployment since we enabled it, right? Yeah, because we
think so.
Graham enabled the API service overnight. So this is something new that we need to tackle then.
It might be, maybe we could just enable it on a single zone to start so we have a point of comparison and we can compare the zones. Does that make sense? Even if we're not routing traffic, just to enable it, just because I really kind of want to see like how much longer things are taking with the API pods.
We know it's taking longer.
But what options do we have? If it does take longer, what options do we have to make it faster?
We can make it faster by adjusting the deployment strategy. I would need to validate that configuration, whether or not that impacts just the API or if it's going to impact all of the web service deployments at the same time. Because if that's the case, I'd shy away from that option.
So we increase the surge to something like, I don't know what is the surge right now? It's 10%?
We use our default, which is 25%. So we should be
25%
of the pods, and then it'll turn old ones down as the new ones come online.
So if we increase that to 50%, I guess the risk there is that one is like we probably have to spin up new nodes to accommodate those pods, right? And that's going to take time. And also we're like creating a lot more pods that are making a lot more connections to Redis, the database, etc.
Can we increase the timeout?
Well, in this case, I don't think this was a timeout issue, unless if I'm misunderstanding the error. It sounds like there was an actual error here.
Oh, okay. So
well, that's the error for the rollback.
That's the error for the rollback. Set it error timed out.
So you think this was a timeout?
On the agenda, the error you dropped in there on 1AI.
It seems to be a timeout connecting to the master node of Kubernetes. And they were discussing, they're not sure if it's during the rollout or the rollback. So if there was another error before that triggered this or not.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we're missing something in our logs here because it just says failed release, but it doesn't tell us what failed. And then below that is where we attempted the rollback because we have the atomic option enabled, and that failed.
What's this, Skyback? I've never seen this before. These hooks.
This is what Graham added that removes access to GitLab.com. It's a hook that was added in a Helm file that tests connectivity to GitLab.com.
Okay.
That might fail things though.
Yeah,
it shouldn't fail our ability to talk to the cluster though, is the problem. Because Helm still needs access to talk to the cluster deploy objects. And rolling backwards for that matter. As far as I know, we've only been blocking access to GitLab.com domains, like GitLab.com, the registry, and the pages domain.
What if this hook fails? It's not going to roll back, right? Like I can see that it's enabling GitLab.com access, and then it's pinging GitLab.com
as a validation step.
As a validation. And what happens if this because then like if GitLab.com is actually down, this validation will fail. And then is it possible we would roll back in that case?
You know, I don't know the answer to that question.
All right, I'll take a note to ask
We
Graham.
should review that. Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm muted. Right below the ping thing, there is the line. So I say just telling us where it failed.
Yeah.
Can we try to see because maybe this is the line when we are defining those hooks. And yeah, I mean,
like maybe
would be a clue.
Maybe it's possible the hooks are failing somehow, and that's the failure. I don't know, like maybe, yeah.
I don't recall if this was behind a feature flag or environment variable to enable or disable this connectivity check. But if it is, I wonder if we should, modify that and see if that solves this problem.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. And if it isn't, we should probably put it behind one, because there are definitely, sounds like there'll be times where we might want to control that. Okay, what actions have we got? So does somebody have the original MR from that? Skybet, do you know which one added that?
The MR for the
hooks
connectivity checks.
Yeah,
I could look it up. I don't have it handy, but I'll look it up.
Cool. Okay, would you mind dropping that in Slack or somewhere? Alessio or Jav or one of you, do you want to take a look through that and see if there's anything we want to review on that?
Please drop in the demo doc.
I'll open an issue to switch the Kubernetes deployments back to be simultaneous how we used to have them. We should, I think you're right, Jav, we should probably review how we want to schedule things in the future, but I think given our reason for switching it previously was just to work around IP availability, we should probably just revert back to that.
Or like Maren said, minimally just clump 2 clusters together. That way we still have like a slow wave of deployments happening instead of all 4 clusters deploying at the same time.
What do you think, Skarbek, about making Canary 100% Kubernetes and then removing Kubernetes traffic from the main stage and just enable API on one of the zones and kind of seeing through a couple deployments to compare behavior? Does that sound reasonable?
Canary should be using API. Canary should be using Kubernetes exclusively via weights right now.
It's not,
unless that's changed.
It's not. But I think that's just an issue we need to look into. I pinged you on that in Slack because I see traffic on the API Canary nodes.
The VMs.
On the VMs,
okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll disable traffic going to the main stage for 2 of the clusters. Yeah, all the weights are jacked up on in Chef for some reason, or on AJ proxy. That's
let's take a look at it together after this.
Yeah.
I think those logs that we are looking in the failure are trimmed because there are some missing lines. There are no information about the pinging charts GitLab.io, even though it say that there was 0 packet loss and 4 packet transmitted.
I noticed
no,
that.
unless it's above. No, it's above. It's in reverse.
Above.
Okay, no. So that script should not fail. I mean, because there's no reason why I should have returned something different from 0 because it has 0 packet loss. So it just printed the happy path of ping. So I don't think it's
well, I'll take a look at this merge request, and if there's a variable that we could set that disables that hook entirely, we should probably take advantage of that just as a validation step that itself is not causing any issues.
I just want to take a second to recognize what Alessio said here. He said the most engineering thing you can imagine. There is no reason why this should fail. Just want to recognize that.
Yeah, it's GitLab access disable is the CI environment variable to disable it globally.
Great,
But does
let's
that
try that.
disable the access or does that disable the hook?
I'm reading the merge request that you linked. Say GitLab access disable is set. Yeah. Globally enable or disable the functionality at will. So no, I don't know.
It doesn't disable the hook. It only basically doesn't go into the case, right? So it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Right, like it triggers the hook.
It triggers. There's an if.
When
yeah.
When you enter in the hook, it just doesn't do anything. I don't know how that works.
I feel like that just went straight through my brain and didn't hook onto anything. I heard it, but I didn't understand it.
So here's where the hook is defined.
Yeah.
And if we set the variable above, so hooks are defined here and they're calling this script. The script above says if I detect the variable, I'm just going to echo something and not do anything. So it just echoes, and this should, I hope, return 0.
Yeah, but on a more general note regarding this, right? So we used to have deployments on Kubernetes taking 20 minutes, more or less. Now we have 4 deployments taking 40. So how are we going to sustain this the more we move into Kubernetes?
That's
and
what we need.
Do we know why it takes 40 minutes? Because I can't imagine this taking 40 minutes.
Based on something that Jar found, it sounds like we are waiting for Kubernetes to spin up new nodes in order to put new pods into place. Without that, we can't move a deployment forward. So I think we need to revisit how many nodes we're running. Maybe set a new minimum that we always have some nodes available for pods to be scheduled onto.
I think
it's also pod lifecycle. Like we just have, it takes very long time for pods to launch and takes very long time for pods to terminate.
This is because of our application. I mean, it's everything in our control, right? So in theory, we could speed up this acting on
we did tweak
the program.
The API pods where they will end sooner than the Git fleet does. Like the Git fleet, the Git pods, we're waiting like 240 something seconds before anything happens during the shutdown process. We've removed that for the API. So they're going to take at most like 30 seconds to shut down. Should be taking at most 30 seconds to shut down.
I think it would be helpful for me maybe is to enable the API and to see a deployment done live while we're kind of viewing the cluster in one of the zones, so we can kind of see the timing of things and what's taking so long. I don't have a good way to get this from logs right now. I think I'd have to see it done in real time. Maybe we could just do that during a demo.
Yeah, we still got time. We want to do that now.
Well, the meeting's over, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I really need to go to the bathroom before my next meeting, so I need to run. I'm just like too many meetings. So I'm gonna drop off. I'll see you guys.
All right. See you all. Thanks.
All right. Have a good one, guys.